Down. And there we are. We are live. Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
We're gonna people are be jumping in, so now's the time to go ahead and blast that we're live. It's always like an odd thing. I wish there was better automation for sharing things once you're actually live. Like there's certain
Mhm.
tools you can use, right? But like for one Discord I'm in, I have it automated so that anytime I like go live, it'll post it. But I can't have that everywhere.
This is so above my head, like in terms of like I can't understand how you can manage something like this, but maybe one day if I do well today, maybe I'll learn how to stream as well.
Oh, you can do it. Everyone can do it. That's how I feel. Um, let's see. Here is yours. Boom. Cool. All right, so people are going to start filing in. Hopefully, I know it's a little earlier than usual, and that's okay. Um, so Karina, what are we doing today? Can you tell us what we're doing? What you're going to
Sure.
teach me?
Yes, my name is Karina. I'm the accessibility specialist for the Gridiron Survivor project. And today we're going to do an audit of our project so far. Just a couple of sentences about the accessibility. Digital accessibility is concerned with making sure that every user, including a disabled user, can access a website or an app. You can interact, navigate to it, and understand its content. And in the process of building an app, you have to make sure that everything you create, it's accessible. And at certain stages, you do what we call an audit. And this is what Ryan and I are going to do. This is actually our third audit. I did an audit at the beginning of the components from Shetkin we were using, then
Hmm.
an audit of the MVP, and since then our code base has increased exponentially. So it's time for this audit. You want to say
Yeah.
something? Yeah, yeah.
No, I think it's a huge thing, and the way that we kind of organize this is that I, a front end engineer, am going to go through the site and sort of pick out things that I think need improvement, and then Karina has already performed the screen reading and the audits herself, so she can tell me, hey, you're wrong, you're right, and definitely things that I miss because I know there's going to be things that I miss. I like to think that I'm pretty decent at it, and I've been told like, hey, you're thinking about it, which is half the battle. Right? But it's learning how to best implement those. Like, we've discussed ARIA labels versus other ARIA attributes and things like that. Yeah, good morning to Emma, Shashi, and Richard in the chat. Thank you for so much for jumping in. I
Oh,
appreciate
and
it.
we've got Emma. Okay, we're all set.
Oh yeah, no, I'm worried with having another accessibility person in here. Maybe Todd Livy. It might be too early for him. I think he's out on the West Coast now. But yeah, nice early morning stream for Shashi as well. He's in Central Time. But yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I will go ahead and get your latest branch up and running because you have the changes from that you've put into the registration page as well,
Mhm.
and that's based off of our develop. So we should be
Yes.
good to go. And let's swap over to, oh, wrong screen. There we go. Maybe. Yeah, we did it. And yeah. All right. So you're not really going to be seeing my VS Code too much unless we decide to start live code, which is fine too. So shouldn't be much of a problem. Okay, so definitely a couple of changes here already that I'm seeing, which I like. And you know what? I said I wasn't going to, but I'm actually going to change it to just one tab so then I can see chat and everything in another. Excellent. Okay, cool. You're still with me? Yes, you are. Sweet. Um, oh, Google is responding to me now. That's scary. All right, cool. So I like here already that the sign up is orange and bold. The link down here is orange and bold, and then each of them have underline, which I think we may have fixed the underline at least outside of your branch. But this is much better, I think, too.
Yes, and we should mention that notice that the entire sentence at the bottom is a link. That's not the intention. It's just that we haven't worked on this page. So I worked on just fixing the link components so it stands out. Like, because before that, you couldn't tell whether it was a link or just part of the regular text.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that was part of the problem that I saw as well. And I'm all for minimalism in design personally, but A, this isn't my personal design and project, and B, you do have to still have it so that it's obvious what is and what isn't a link. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you should try to have links. I don't know if this is purely accessibility focused or not, but you should try to have links be as short and descriptive as what they actually are. So in this case, sign up is the link. You're not going to say, you know, sign up here and put the link on here, correct?
Exactly. I mean, we are careful, for example, if you have something like click here, and
Yep.
that's how it's going to be introduced to the screen reader, and then click here, where is this link taking you? Okay, but if it's short but to the point, it tells the user where the link is going to lead, that's totally fine.
Right. And then, so this down here, we could also just end up making it sign up if we really wanted to. Now,
Exactly.
in the case that we have a non-descriptive link, we could add, a name at the very least to it to help with that.
So for the screen reader user, you could add, I mean, some people would add ARIA label. I advised against it. I think the best choice would be hidden text. So text with a hidden class that's
Mm.
available only to the screen reader. We can get it later on into why ARIA label is not the perfect solution. Basically, it's not guaranteed that's going to be translated by a browser. So it hurts the internalization of your app. So somebody who's in a different country speaking a different language than your app is built in, using maybe auto translate in a browser might not get that link translated if you're using ARIA label.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously it's super important no matter what. And this is really important too if we're using entire divs as a link, for example, like a blog card, right? Like you need that extra description if the entire thing is linking over to it, right?
Yeah. Okay, so in terms
Yeah.
of this page, like what would you be looking at? Like what
So for me, you've actually fixed everything that I can see right at a glance. We talked about our inputs a lot, and thankfully they are fixed. It was something with the theming. At first, I thought we were going both light and dark mode, but as we've progressed, Shashi says no, we're just focusing on dark mode. So in that
Mhm.
case, we just have to adapt accordingly. And yeah, so now this to me looks accessible. The only thing I'm worried about is the lack of a label. And often see it just said in 2024 labels that they're not connected properly to the input. So when you click a label, they should go to the input it's associated with. And I see a lack of that, and it still amazes me.
So we should say that once we jump into the registration page, you're gonna see the label. So that's added. It just hasn't been merged into develop.
Let's check
Um,
that out now, actually, since we're here.
okay.
So, yeah, to my like, you can't really or you shouldn't really use placeholders in place of that because the placeholder goes away once I start typing, right?
And it's also up this point, it's not guaranteed that's gonna always create an accessible name for the screen reader. It used to be worse depending on the browser operating system screen reader combination that you're using. Even though actually I think it's more like a browser operating system issue that it's not guaranteed. Even technically, the placeholder can be used to create the accessible name. It's not always happening. So your label, is the best insurance that you're going to have an accessible name for your input.
Right. Yeah. I think it's just it 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 might make the design a little bit less minimal, but in the end, it's better for everyone involved, I think. So I'm a big fan of it. Obviously, we have it hooked up where you can see I'm actually clicking the label itself and it's focusing the input it's for. That's how it should work.
Yeah.
Again, it's something that I do see missing a lot. Stylistically, I might change this a little bit personally, maybe add a little bit more spacing between the two.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely. I didn't get into the style. I just followed the
exactly
design in
right.
terms of, adding the label. I mean, to be honest, at this point, I would almost we can almost get rid of the placeholder because at
Yep,
this
and
point it's just like a style preference and it's yeah, okay. Am I just saying that?
Emma just said the same thing as,
Ex-
yeah, exactly right.
exactly. Because you have the issue of um, the placeholder color contrast. It has to pass um, the WCAG expectation for the color contrast. But if it's too high, as Emma was saying, it just feels like it's filled in, and
Yeah, and
it looks
we
very crowded. Even stylistically, yeah, it just feels like it's too much there.
right, and right now there's not. I can see a difference, but someone who maybe is impaired or colorblind might not see that much of a difference between this light gray and this lighter gray, which is basically almost white. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%. I like placeholders because I like them because I think I've seen them so much. Right, it's a design trend we've seen. What else would I look for on this page? So
Right.
obviously we've seen that the login here is the actionable link. We see login here is the actionable link, which we're going to update on the login page to be register, right, or sign up. And the big thing you look for is tab navigation.
Mhm.
So you can see here it's jumping to log in each of the inputs, and then hopefully the button, if it was enabled. The button's not currently enabled though because we don't have our credentials logged in. Is
Right.
that still okay? That's being skipped over?
No.
Okay. So
Yes.
I didn't think so. We need to tell the user why is this element not
Exactly. So
being
first of all, having an enable, like if you would run like a quick audit with like a browser tool,
yes.
and you'd have would it completely ignore the button because it's is disabled in the sense it will not, for example, test color contrast. Okay, so that's allowed even though it shouldn't. So should say that the accessibility specialists that I know are completely enraged because of the fact that we are allowed to have a disabled button. Like if you're tabbing through this, yes, if you're a screen reader user, you don't know that the button is there.
Right. Right. And you mentioned browser tools to check accessibility, and I did want to mention one. It's not coming up on my screen for some reason. I wonder why that is. Let's see. I just wanted to show Google Lighthouse, which isn't the best um, in the world, but I think it's a really good starter for people
Mhm.
that maybe don't know it. So I just wanted to go over it and we could bump up the size a little bit. So this is actually where I tend to start with accessibility that isn't completely obvious to my eye, that being labels, tab navigation, and color
Color
contrast. Those are the
contrast, yeah.
big three that I always focus on personally. And I start with this because it's built in and it's quick, right? I know there's other extensions and things you can run, and I want to talk more about that as well.
Yeah,
But yeah, Lighthouse is a great way for me at least to get a
and it will
quick
catch
diagnosis.
things that you probably didn't think about it, like the title. Does the page have a title attribute? Because as a screen
Mm,
reader, when I land on a page, if there's no title, that I don't know where I am, and especially if I'm tabbing between multiple pages, it always tells me where I'm going. So I need that, and that
right.
it's going to catch that.
So right now I'm just running the Lighthouse. I don't know why it vanished from my stream, but we could try
Right.
to get that back. I don't know what its deal is. Um, maybe question mark.
So it caught something about contrast.
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
Oh, it's odd. I'm not seeing it
Okay.
on here. Let's see what happens. What the hell? Is the stream seeing it? I wonder. I'm just gonna stop and share again. There we go. Now I can see it. That was odd. Okay. Um, I want to get to Boratos's comment in a second. Yeah, so right now we can see a catches contrast. Now 96, you might think, oh, that's great, whatever, but this is a very simple page where there's not a whole lot going on. So right
Mhm.
away, it's looking at our gray text here. It's saying actually this
Yes.
is not contrasty enough, so we might have to make this. This is a Tailwind class. There's
Mhm.
classes of 50, then 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 950. So going from light to dark. So we could bump this up to maybe 3 or 400.
Mhm.
The problem with that, well, not it's not a problem, I should say, but the difference is, when you're designing something and you can say, oh, this looks nice because it's not as important. Like we want them to know this, the title and everything. And then this, but we just have to accommodate, right?
And it's not actually that far off. If I remember correctly, it was close to 4, so it would still kind of be in the background, so to speak, in terms of importance, you know? So we're close. If I remember, yeah, I tested. I don't have my notes right in front of me, but
That's okay. Sometimes I find that sometimes the built-in inspector tool will tell me. You could see like it showed me on the actual
yeah.
element, but not the text for some reason. But yeah, so we could probably just bump this up to 400 and give it. Actually, we could try that right now. Actually, we'll probably reload the page. Not 40, 400. I don't think it took that at all. That's okay.
It did. Notice that it's lighter, the text now?
Yeah, it looks too light now for
That's
400.
true. That's too much. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need
So
something in
it
between.
Yeah, and that's okay. We have plenty actually. I really like. I mean, you could just go to Tailwind's site for this, but Shad Cien, who we are using for our component library, did put this out recently, and it's all the Tailwind colors that they're natively supported
Mhm.
that are built in. So we're using Zinc. So you can see here. I'm sorry, right here, 500 to 400. Not that big of a difference, but it might be just enough to pass that WCAG, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, and what's nice with this here, you can get the class name, the hex, the RGB, and the HSL. Just really nice. So yeah, let's jump back to this. So we have to fix the contrast, and that's a relatively easy fix, and that'll be for the entire app. I think we're going to see that issue because that color is used repeatedly. And then we have a bunch of manual things to check. This is the only thing that looks like it caught right away. So it's saying, reminding us to check that interactive controls are keyboard focusable, which we talked about. They indicate their purpose and state. The page has a logical tab order, which I do think it does right now, and so forth. So, do you use this at all, or are there other tools that you recommend just jumping out of the gate with?
So this is using the DQ's Axie library, okay? And so there's also you have this, and it's by default. It comes with the browser. You can actually install the Axie Dev tools.
Yep.
My understanding is that the library is a bit more extensive than the Lighthouse. Even though I have to say, sometimes I would like run both, and this one would catch errors that the Axie would not. So if I use them, I do use them. Just, I mean, it's an odd chance that that will happen. Now that I do audits more regularly, I actually use them at the end just to see if I missed something. It's more of a kind of like an ego thing. Like I'm going to do this with screen reader manually. I have a system that I follow when I do a full audit. And
Okay.
this is just kind of like a check at the end that I
Yeah,
use.
I
But
think that's a good thing.
totally recommended for everyone actually. So if you're starting, or especially if you're a developer, and just like do it regularly as you build. Yeah.
For sure. I want to jump back to Boratos's comment about having an eyeball icon so users can see what they're typing in their password field. I always like that as a feature. It's something that is because we're just trying to get an MVP out. Like really, we the only thing we've released thus far was a really rough alpha, and our MVP we're trying to get out. So it's something that I think we want to add, but it's not right away a thing. Does that have an accessibility issue though? Or is that just more a like creature comfort thing that we have now?
Um, you know what? I use it all the time.
Mm,
Off the top of my head, I can't think of like a WCAG that is requiring that. I don't know if I know Emma's in the chat if she, but it's definitely I would not be able to live without it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's very commonly used. So, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna just take that and we'll throw it in, and it seems like it's pretty a pretty simple thing to implement. So it could just be thrown in if someone's got some extra time in the maybe the next
yeah,
sprint. Um, and before we move on, yeah, Emma points out that the contrast of the border color is
yeah,
also
yeah.
it's
That and
that
that's something that Jaina is working on right now because that was caught with the MVP audit,
yes.
and yeah. So my PR didn't deal with this, and I was supposed to just because I haven't received anything from design yet. So yes, definitely, there's not
Yeah,
a contrast there.
it looks like this is saying it's using Google keeps thinking I'm talking to it, and I'm certainly not. So I'm just gonna turn off my my phone because I don't know what it's thinking. This still looks like it's doing using the Zinc 400 border Zinc 400 right here. I don't I don't know if I believe that, but also our colors are not 100% accurate. This is like a problem I've pointed out to Shashi that I just want to fix, and he keeps telling me no, it's got to be broken out into several
Oh,
tickets.
Shash is full, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, and this is because I think when whoever set up the design didn't change the included CSS variables from ShadCN to match our design. So we do have a little bit of mismatch between colors. So by default, like this background color
It's kind
is
of bluish, not black. Yeah.
yeah. And actually, if we go back to ShadCN, you can see that is actually slate or gray. Like the gray is very bluish to me. It's not as blue as gray as slate, but it's very gray blue. And then as you can see, we go down, it gets sort of from more cool to less cool, or cool, neutral, warm. So zinc is a cooler gray, neutral is neutral, and then stone is the warmer gray. And this might not, again, someone who is visually impaired not might not see these differences, but for me, we're just talking about at least an MVP that we're building out. It matters to me. But all right, let's go. Oh, if only I could find the right tab. No, there we go. Let's go on. So we have the border colors, we have the text colors we need to address, and you've put placed the placeholders, which is great, and the button we need to figure out. So real quick, I'll just pretend that I'm registering. I'm not actually going to because we don't need to.
Um,
And now it's navigable by tabbing.
okay. Now, can I ask you? I don't know. I was going to ask you how much of form validation we put in, but there is some form validation, and even we don't have to go into all the details because validating form is probably one of the hardest thing to do for accessibility, but it's doable, and there's several approaches we can use that. So you have your correct an email that looks valid, you have the password. So do me a favor and go to confirm password and just delete the last character.
Yep.
Okay. Now, let's imagine that you're a screen reader user, or you could just be any user, even like a sighted user. You put in what you believe it's a correct email. You put the password. You think you put the correct confirm password, and obviously they don't match. What do you do?
Right. We should have, and I actually, well, we should have at the very least a message that's alerting them that what is the problem here, right? Like here, and you see all the time in forums, these don't match. And then if I add the last thing, then it lights up. But we're not telling them right now what isn't matching. Now, I don't know if that's going to be built into the toasts that we have, but realistically, the toast only, actually, no, it can't because the toast will only pop up when we click the button or hit submit. So we need an error here.
So
What?
I'll tell. So this is really bad for screen reader user because if you're tabbing, and the extra problem that the screen reader user has is that um, as you're moving away from a field, yes, yeah, you put the email, you move to the password, you hear no error message, yes, you go to confirm, this is where you make the mistake, you tab away from it, you're not going to reach the button because it's disabled, but you're going to reach the login link.
Mm.
And it's like, yes, when you submit a form, it has to be a button, but so many times, developers confuse buttons with links. And it's very likely
Yes.
that a screen reader user might actually click that link thinking, okay, this is what I have to do to register. But if you, let's do something else, just one more test. Put the correct passwords,
Okay.
passwords such that they match, but do remove everything after Ryan, after your name in the email. Just remove the yes. Notice that now it's working.
And it
Okay, so
sure
if you
shouldn't
click
be.
register, it's obviously not gonna. This is where the validation starts kicking in. I noticed that. So we have
Mm.
actually validation built in, but it doesn't kick in with the first iteration.
Yeah, and we need that, right? They need the. I
Mm.
mean, users in general should expect it, but
Exactly.
especially people using screen readers should get it as they're filling it out. So, how do we make it so that when they're in the input and something isn't correct, the screen reader can update
Well,
with that information?
it's doing it. So in this stage right now, it's gonna do it. So
Mm.
like for example, so this is the browser validation. Okay, so this is not ours. Okay, if you add the symbol right now after your name,
Mm-hmm.
just that. Okay, notice it
Okay.
changed. Okay,
Yep.
now add a few letters, but not the complete. Okay, the register button is still enable. So now click register.
Okay. Let me add those two letters back,
Yes, click register. So
and there we
notice that
have
it
it.
gave it. So that's our own. Yes, that's our
And that
own
is not
validation.
contrasty enough either.
That's not contrasty, but the screen reader is going to say that. It's going to read that
Oh.
out. And if you move from at this point, if you are on the email input and you move towards the password, that's going to be read. So we have it working. I would also suggest that we uh, override the browser,
Mm.
so we implement our own in terms of everything that's related to email, just even for design purposes. And there's an issue that I'm going to mention in a second. So it's working, but for some reason it's not working with the first iteration. So we have it, and it's pretty solid. I tested many combinations. It's pretty solid, but it's not working with the first iteration. Like
Right.
when the password don't match on the first time.
Yeah.
And you can do now, so change, you have the password, um, change something with the second password, maybe. Notice
Now
that
we
it's
get
saying
it.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't match. So it's again, it's pretty solid. I liked it. It's just the only that has to kick in the beginning.
Okay. And to reiterate kind of what you're saying, Emma's saying it as well, that you don't have to let them know as they're filling it out. That could be
Oh,
quite
definitely.
distracting. You
Yes.
could validate on submit. Okay, so that is
Yes.
functional then in the way that meets expectations. I always thought it would be good to tell them as they're doing it, but if we can just do it on submit, then that's great. I think then we have a pretty close to working form. Now, instead of would it be more valuable for this message to obviously be contrasty, but would it be more beneficial for this to show up when they hit submit below each appropriate section?
So right now, what happens, like if you hit submit,
Well, I can't now, right?
yes, I know. If you click submit, the focus is going to go to the first input that's invalid, which is
Ah, okay.
okay, which is not, especially for screen. It's not a bad. It's not it's like a set of steps.
Mm,
Another approach is that if you click submit, whatever it's invalid, you're going to have all the errors listed at the top of the form with the focus going to
yes.
that container.
Yes.
That
Like
that
an extra
that's another
container is added
approach.
here with the errors, like you said. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that might be nice too because it's all in one place, and like you said, it automatically goes there, and then we'll read out what the problems
Yeah.
are.
So
Cool.
Emma was also mentioning in the chat that you don't want validation as you're typing. What I've seen, and she can correct me if I'm wrong, is that as you move away from a field that's invalid, it's okay to have the error message then.
Mm,
In the sense,
okay.
like you're typing, let's say you're typing in the email and you forgot .com or whatever, the dot, and you're tabbing away to the next, and the screen reader and also the error message can appear, email is not valid, and then you can
Yeah.
go back.
Right. I see.
I-
Okay.
I've
So it's
I've
okay if it
seen
pops up
that I've seen
afterwards.
that
Yeah.
presented by accessibility specialists as well as something valid, but again, you don't want validation as you're typing.
Okay, great. So we have a few things to work on or just refine. I think the validation steps we do have going on is nice, but Karina, maybe you can take it upon yourself as the accessibility person to propose these different solutions, and then we can, Shashi and or Jana or whoever can sort of decide which direction to go with.
Oh, definitely, definitely, yeah.
Cool. Anything else on this page that stands out to you that
Um,
I may have missed?
I mean, I would always check the image. Obviously,
Yes.
if there is no alt attribute role added, Lighthouse would catch that. That's missing.
Yes.
In
Yeah.
this case, we have something very generic. I mean, again, it's not a big deal. And the question is, okay, is it important, or is it just noise for the screen user that I'm saying, okay, there's a logo there.
Hmm.
Is there anything significant about it? I mean, my understanding is that you have to be like a football enthusiast to participate in this survivor pool. Not, I don't know. There's money involved, so maybe you're just in for the money. Uh, if there's anything special about it, as long as it's about the logo, as long as it's not long, there's a slogan there. Is that like a NFL slogan, or is that our own slogan?
No,
Something?
this here is from
No,
Jimmy Fallon.
no,
Oh,
no, no. Within the
predict and
logo.
prevail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that is tough to see in the logo. That is on the logo that was designed.
okay. Is that something that it's important? So I mean, personally, I would not add. I would put an empty alt
Okay.
because it's just no. Okay, there's a logo there. So what? Is anything specific? Something that it's just gonna make me excited about it? About the
Mm,
app or not? Again, but that's a personal preference. It's not very long, so it's a little bit of a noise for the screener user, but not too much.
gotcha. Okay.
But always
I,
always check the alt text for an image.
right. Yeah, that's important. Good. Okay. So, and obviously the login page is basically the same exact thing. I'm just gonna jump log in now. We've got about 25 minutes left, so we can touch on something else. But I love learning about this because I want to be able to. My goal is no matter what I'm doing to make it as bulletproof as possible. So this is why I like learning about accessibility, especially no matter like I'm sure some places don't focus on it as much, which is a crime in my opinion. But if I can submit bulletproof code that is accessible, good looking, functional, all that jazz, then I feel like I'm content with what I'm doing.
I love working with you in our team because of that. I have the easiest job in the world.
It's I mean, someone's got to care, right? And I try to make sure that I can.
So,
So we dive into our leaks page here. First thing I see right away, since we were just talking about it, is the border color.
mhm.
And so that'll have to be updated. When we do hover over it, we see this background color changes. When we tab to it, though, we don't have those same styles. Should they be the same?
You mean the outline? Um,
Yeah.
in the big scheme of things, I would say, especially the difference is not that big. There's no WCAG rule that I can think of that it says they should be the same.
Okay. I was just
Um,
curious. Like the background color doesn't have to change.
there's a few other things I would kind of like focus on. Did you notice when you got to this page, you used the mouse? I would love you, as we land on the page, just use the keyboard. See where the keyboard
Sure.
goes.
So first to the logo, which should have an alt text. I believe I baked that in. Yeah, Gridiron Survivor logo once again. So nothing too descriptive, but that's all it is.
Okay,
So I'll
so
come back here. That
Okay, interesting. No, so because for me, when I tested, as I went straight from login here, it went to the main component. So it completely skipped the nav bar.
interesting. I'm gonna reload the page
Can
once more,
you?
and I'll tab on it again. Yep, it went straight there.
Okay, very interesting. I tested in Chrome because that would be an issue because I know we're coming from the login page, doesn't have a header or a nav bar. Okay, and it's an SPA thing,
Hmm. What is
um,
that?
single page application. It's like it
Oh,
doesn't
okay.
reload the entire page. Yeah, but in this case, the nav bar is also completely new. But in my case, so I have to see, maybe you're on a Mac, yes?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so this is something we need to look into because mine goes completely directly to the GIS League. Um, it's actually a link. It looks like a button, but it's a link, and it skips not so much the logo with the link, but it skips
The nav
remember
bar.
yes,
Hmm.
right. So
Interesting.
that's something we need to look at. Um,
Okay, Emma wants me to try logging out and logging in again. So I'm gonna. I
oh,
tabbed over to this, by the way. We could see that it's following it, and
yeah,
the only things I could tab to now are these two things.
yeah.
So I will sign out, and then I will jump down here, and I'll sign in. Wow, that's a nice loading spinner. All right, so I will
Yeah.
wait for the toast to clear. Ah, okay. So upon first sign in, it does tab straight to this, and I wonder if that's because we're reloading the page, and it just like maybe we were technically. I don't know. That's odd. I don't have a.
So I don't know if we're doing any focus management and we're sending the focus to main. No, we're not doing. So we're letting, well, I mean, so behind the scene, my understanding that React, so SPAs have their own routing algorithm, and
Mm,
I, and so we'll have to manage this ourselves then. We, whatever that means. Okay, you guys can do this.
yeah, I mean, so is
But
that
yeah.
something like with tab index, we have to just manage, what is it like making like the logo -1, so then it goes there first and then follow the DOM?
No, that you do that with what is in, I don't know, in Next.js, in React would be like use ref and with focus, and you
Oh, I
send the
see.
focus. Yeah, you
Okay.
send the focus to the navigation first, and
Hmm.
then you could have, and this is not the only page that use it that has the navigation. So except for the login and registration, I don't know again how many other pages will have, and then you can also add a skip link, even though,
Yes.
again, depending on how much more, many more items we're going to add to the navigation, you could have that. So you can give the keyboard user the option to skip, but we shouldn't skip it ourselves, like, so we shouldn't force them to go to main unless they choose to do so.
Right. And actually, I think I'm trying to remember where I've seen that skip link before, but it's very handy where you just tab once basically and it pops up, right?
Yeah, look, if you open New York Times, for example, and
New
you
York
don't have
Times.
to,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you open New York Times tab, let it, yeah, load, and
Mm.
I mean, look at the navigation that New York Times has, and if you're a regular user, you might just want to get to the main content.
Okay, so it literally just shut points us down here. Interesting. I've seen like a button pop up when you tab. It's like above the fold.
Yeah, it didn't pop up
Um,
here. I didn't notice. Like, it didn't pop up.
I didn't see any button. No, I'm gonna close it and go back to it just for, and we'll let it fully load before I do anything.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is sending me straight to here. I'm trying to think. I think
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so if you the first tab should put the focus on link that pops up, and that's going to be skip link.
There it is. Okay, so you
Okay,
can see
okay,
here
so
after
they
I got
have
through
it,
the
yes.
cookie warnings. Yeah, they go. Thank you, Emma. Yep, there it right is, and that's nice and highlighted. It's yellow, so you
Mhm.
know it's active, right? And as I move, shift around, it pops up, and then I could hit enter to interact with it, or space rather. Cool. That yeah, depending I think on the amount of content with that we end up adding, it might be worth it. Um, a
Um,
button. What do you think?
so, well, technically it's a link, yes, because it's bringing us to a
Yes, I'm
different
sorry.
page,
Yes, yeah, yeah,
and we
yeah.
install it as a button. This is, I think, you and I talked about it. This is the instance that I reached out to some accessibility experts, and I got very divided opinions. Some
Yeah.
say that they would fail because this is the role is link, but then we're disguising as a button, so that could be a failure. Others said that most people don't know the difference, and it shouldn't make a difference. I shouldn't worry about it. So that's something I still want to explore. I'm curious actually what
Yeah.
Emma thinks about it. My other concern was that everything that you see inside that border,
Yeah.
everything is wrapped in the link. So logo, graphic, everything is
Survivors.
red
Yeah.
for the link. I think that's too much. Definitely the
Mm.
graphic, the image is not important, so we should have an empty alt.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know about surviving. What is I see? That's too small for me. Survives 43 out of 40.
Survivors. Yeah. So
I'm
this is the
sorry.
amount of people left in the league.
Okay, is that something important? Is should that be part of the title or no?
For the regular user, I don't know how important it is for them to know that. For the admin on their admin screen, they definitely need to see the amount of survivors and know it.
Okay, I would, yeah. So it's something that we need to discuss. Could be because that's a heading. Also, it's not. It jumps from, and this is something that Lighthouse would catch.
Mm-hmm.
Your leagues is an H1, and I think
Yep.
GIS league is an
H4.
H4.
Yes.
Okay,
Interesting.
so now we are not breaking any WCAG rule there, but it's not considered a best practice
No,
because
not at all.
so maybe it was used just because of the styling, but you can always style any heading the way you want it.
I
It's
agree.
confusing. Sometimes tabbing through the headings to figure out what's going on the page by pressing the
Mm-hmm.
H key is a preferred way for screen reader user to tab through a page. And just jumping from H1 to H4, it's kind of confusing because you're thinking, did I skip something? Did they not code this correctly? So there's more information there that I don't have access to.
Right.
So the
Okay.
headings should be in order. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with that. Um, I made that, and I don't know why I may be. Oh, you know what? Someone else replaced it because I think that's using our heading component. So they
Okay.
may have replaced it because they saw the size, but didn't think about that. We have a heading component that you say heading as, and then the it equals H1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I wonder if that was why, or I did it. I could have just made a
I
mistake,
mean,
but yeah.
it just it doesn't matter. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just we quickly pass through the loading, just so you know. Maybe because it's too fast, I never got the screen reader to say anything about it. I mean, it was just fast, so it wouldn't matter. But just we need to, and I couldn't understand. And it's supposed. I look at the loading, like the spinner code.
Yeah.
It has
Yep.
the loading text in it.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, okay, but I'm we will have to kind of maybe mock some slow connection to see if actually gets to be read out loud by the screen reader.
Yeah, we can do that. I'm trying to
We don't
remember.
have to do again. We don't have to do it now. Obviously, if it's like a half of a second, you don't even realize when you're switching between. But in an instance where that's important because the connection is slow and it's loading slow, we want to make sure that's being announced by the screen reader.
Right. So I am simulating 3G right now, so it's slower internet, and we do see it's there.
Okay.
And um, there is an alt image of Gridiron Survivor loading in and out, or fading in and
Okay.
out.
So I'm gonna test, like I didn't know how to actually, so we and I can talk about it so I can test with the
Yeah,
screen
for
to
sure,
make
for
sure.
sure. I will change this back. It's amazing to see how fast internet's come that I don't have to, you know. Yeah,
Um,
so I do want to touch on that because I also made that and I made the loading spinner. And the loading spinner is the thing we saw on the login button and the register button. I do think I have it where if reduced motion is preferred, it shows the word loading. So the
Mm-hmm.
the thing will still be there, but it doesn't rotate, and then it shows the words loading.
That's great. That's
And
great.
I think I did the alt text as well for that as loading.
Uh,
Yeah, I'll go over it real quick for Alex, and you can obviously know it now as well, Karina. So, and the dev tools, I think usually you can find it down here in network conditions, or if you don't see that there, you can go on the menu on the top right, go to more tools, and here's where you can see network conditions.
okay.
And I'll blow this up so everyone can see, hopefully. And then down here, the first thing, I mean, you can disable your cache. You can change the user agent, which is a whole other topic. But that's, to me, my knowledge, like how the browser styles things by default right now. Like just use use browser default for sure. I don't touch that. Maybe some other people do. But then you have custom presets: fast 4G, slow 4G, 3G, and offline. So it's just really good for emulating network speeds and seeing the performance of your site with people with maybe not as fast internet. Like in the US, fast internet is not guaranteed, and we know it's not guaranteed across the world either. So yeah, just a useful tool to have. Go to the tools, go to more tools, go to network conditions. Anytime.
I
Okay.
usually just turn off my Wi-Fi. Then, but in this case, no, because and just right as you're switching. But in this case,
Mm.
it just wasn't working. Like everything would shut down. So
Yeah. So we have about 10 minutes left. We're
okay, yeah.
gonna do
So
a
I
speed
think
run
we
through
can
this
go through this
page.
page. Yeah.
Yeah, this needs to be restyled. There was like a weird merge thing, so that's one thing. So this isn't the final product whatsoever.
Mhm.
Talking of accessibility, though, again, things that we see. Actually, let's see. I'm going to navigate back from
Yes, I was going to
links.
ask you that. Okay. And then
I
just,
should have used the keyboard. Hold on.
yes, I was going to say, can you please tab because there's something very interesting happening on this page.
Yeah. Hey, Alex. Thank you
Ooh,
for hanging out. Good
suspense.
luck
You
with your
kept the
packing.
best for last. Okay,
Hey. All right. So,
tab.
okay. Now I'm going to tab, and it goes straight once more to the body,
Okay. Now,
to the
I
main.
don't know if you can zoom in a
Yeah. Where do you
little
want me to
bit.
zoom in?
Focus on the make pick.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there's more of them. Okay. Okay. So tab.
Hmm.
What happened?
Oh,
Huh? Tab. Tab.
interesting.
Tab again. Tab again.
It's keeping the outline there.
Oh, there's more to that. Like because if you're going to use the screen reader, actually, I'm just thinking that we should have looked at the accessibility tree, but that's okay. If you use the screen reader,
Hmm.
guess what's going to read? It's going to read make pick button link.
Really
So there is a button inside a link,
interesting.
and my guess is that um, the button was used because we have a yes, Emma. Yes. Oh, I saw the no, but we're gonna get rid of it. Yes. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
we the button we have a button variant that's styled this way. Okay, but I think we can create a link variant that's also styled this way.
I
Um,
agree.
n-
Yeah, and that's going to be a really easy thing to do, and
exactly.
it'll get rid of the double of the nested interactive because you're right. It's a button nested inside of a link. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Good
So that
catch.
that was the biggest issue that I discovered on this page. If we zoom back to regular view, if I remember correctly, again the entry, those are headings number 4.
Probably fours again.
Yeah.
Uh, They are H4s, and I wonder if this is because yeah, so the reason that these were H4s, um can I share this real quick? I want to change my source. Was because of the design.
Hmm.
So I think it'll make more sense once it's built out again, but you can tell me what you think. Page designs. Because we're currently missing some elements on this page.
Yeah, I was thinking like obviously it might have a title exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay,
this
got
would be
it.
my H1, and
Hmm.
then I was thinking this realistically doesn't. This is just a. I think of this as like a component itself. I just made a paragraph text.
I mean, that
But
could, if that's important, that could be like, that you could have the heading with an aria described by, meaning the screen reader is going to read the heading,
ah,
say Windy City SmackDown heading level 1, and also then read the subtitle.
I like that.
If we think so, that's an aria described by. If we think that's important information, that should go with the heading,
Mm, yeah. I okay.
right?
And then I guess a good question here. So this would be the H1. Let's just call this H2. This realistically then should be an H3.
Exactly. And again, you can
Yeah.
style it the way you want
Of
it as
course.
long as
Yeah.
programmatically follows the sequential order of the headings 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we just have a couple of anchor tags here and there, which could be styled as, which, again, I think I just made this a P tag, but we could use the aria described by to change it in the different context it's used, right? So maybe here it's a little bit more important than on the league cards that we could see here.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be up to the football
Yeah,
people. And I'm not. I've been in the US for almost 25 years and know nothing. I'm learning a little bit about football now.
that's okay. You're not
Um,
missing much, let me tell you. Yeah, okay. So when I come back and restyle this page, or I guess rebuild part of it,
and
I will make sure I change that up.
And the same question about the green, I guess, kind of a label. It says active. Is that something important? Like if I was um, searching, so I'm looking at the entry level. If I'm a screen reader user, I go by headings. Um, would I want to know that? Is that important?
So yeah, this is important because and frankly, I think I don't know if this is going to be how it works, but so just to describe it really quickly, you can be in multiple different leagues, and then
Mhm.
in let's say in this league we have 5 different picks we can make per week, or 5 different entries we can make, and after the first week of the football games, entries 1, 3, and 5 are like you lost. So then those would be, I guess, not alive, or dead,
Dead?
whatever,
No. Okay.
disactive,
Yes. No.
unactive, inactive.
Off. Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to see what verbiage we're using. But so yeah, that is important, and I think I'm gonna jump back to the Figma actually. Does this have an example of that? Yes, it
Um,
does. So it's got a disabled state here, almost an eliminated state, I should say. So, and this is using props currently. So, if this entry is eliminated, notice that the link to make a pick isn't there. The
yeah.
background color is changed, and the status text changes as well.
And then the fact that if you go back to the page where there's, multiple entries, so with multiple make pick or edit pick. Now, if I'm a scrutiny user, if I'm tabbing through these buttons, links, they all sound the same to me. So we need to
Mm,
strike somehow, again, maybe an already described by attach them to the entry. Or we could have some hidden text. So edit pick entry 1, okay?
I see. Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
edit pick entry 2, so I know which one I'm picking.
That should be pretty doable considering we can just use a template literal to throw in the JavaScript variables, right?
Mhm.
Or wherever it's getting this data from. Like if we're just mapping through the user's
Yeah.
entries to display them, we could just throw that into the screen reader only text. And again, Tailwind's got that nice built-in class SR only that you don't see it, but it will announce it to screen readers. Emma's off saying to use aria labeled by and use the heading.
Okay.
So what? How would that read out? Would that say like you would tab here and it would say entry two alive, and then entry two edit pick. Is that how it would
But
read
the
out?
thing is that if you tab, like you wouldn't be you're not tabbing through the headings, meaning if you go H with the H key to find out the headings if you want that.
Okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, you might just go with the tab key because you go to the interactive controls, in this case, these links. So as if you go to make pick, it will say make pick entry
Mm,
one. I think.
interesting. So yeah, you're right. It's not obviously selecting them, and H is only for the screen reader. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's one way to learn kind of like the structure of a page is to press the H key, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of tabbing through the headings only.
Oh, interesting.
Okay,
And is
that's
that
just for
something the
this.
accessibility tree is used for too?
I'm sorry.
Is that something the accessibility tree is used for as well?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So it's getting that information somehow, the screen reader, right? To
Oh
see
yes, oh
the
yes,
headings.
like yes, 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 yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
Where is that tree?
via the accessibility APIs of the operating system is grabbing that information from the accessibility tree, which is built at render time, just like the DOM. So just like
Okay.
it's a concise version. The accessibility tree is a concise version of the DOM. It has the nodes that needs to be exposed to assistive technologies.
Gotcha. It's moved to the top right corner of the Dom tree. I just want to find it. Where is it moved to?
Oh, for me,
Um.
it's so you. Let me see. I don't know if it's different on a
Oh, I got
Mac.
it right. Literally right here.
You
Okay.
got it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to bring this up. A, you could tell how long it took me to find, which isn't a good thing. But B, so we have the Gridiron Survivor Focus Tools tree. This is a really good resource that I feel like is hidden away for no reason.
That's
Um,
that's what I use like a lot, and that's how I start. Like if I'm searching for an element, it's so much easy because it gets rid of all the CSS and all
mm-hmm.
the clutter. Okay,
Yeah.
and then click on link make pick whichever. Okay, I click on it. Just I select it, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
click on in the top right hand corner. There's this little figure. So press on it if that's okay, so it toggles between the elements view and the accessibility tree view. It's
Mm.
such a great tool. By the way, I'm giving a talk on this in a couple of months at Squiggle Comps
Up at
conference.
Boston.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to make
because
it up there. There's so many things going on.
it's not a well-known tool for, even if you're both for accessibility and just like debugging and understanding the code base in general.
Yeah.
um,
I mean, it's so useful
So
just to
look at,
have
so
this
notice
here.
that you click on that link, okay? So
Mm-hmm.
now you notice link, may pick. Now there's a button inside it,
Yep.
okay? You can open that button more, okay?
And there's the
So
so we're getting make pick 3 times.
no, so static text is just telling you where that it's coming from. So this is only going to
Mm,
read it as make pick because so the button is getting the text from the text that's inside the button tags. Okay, the
right.
link is getting the name from the button. So by
Okay.
the way, so what you see after an element like the link, so that's the role. What you see in quotation mark, that's the accessible name.
Okay. Gotcha. That's very
Okay.
useful to see.
And since we are here, I'm going to ask you to go to navigation. I was going to say that go
Sure.
to navigation, go to, so notice the link. It has
Yep.
Gridiron Survival logo. So that's if you click on it, if you open it down, notice that you know that the
Mm.
accessible name is coming from the image.
So this link should be where it's directing the user to, correct?
Yes, yes. For
Okay.
and yes. So notice that it's just saying that it's the logo. It's not telling you where it's going.
I want to tab back to the DOM tree real quick just to look at that. So that is coming from the alt text here.
Yeah. So the
So should we
name.
add a name to the link to change that?
Um, You could have an empty alt and then just put something in between the tags of the link to say where is this leading, hidden. because
Oh,
because
okay.
if you use the alt text, it's not bad, it's better than nothing, but it's also going to say the word graphing because, well, it's letting you know there's an image there, which is not useful for a link,
No, not at
so
all.
just like
Not
a
at
little
all.
bit of extra noise and adding there.
Hmm.
Do you mind going back to the tree
Sure.
for a second? Okay, so we are in the navigation. We're looking at the link. Now, on the navigation, the last item is list. Okay,
Yep.
notice it's okay. There's no name. That's fine. Open it. List item. I'm not sure if, okay, button. Okay, what are you noticing for the button?
There's no name or any actionable item associated with the
Exactly.
screen reader, so it's not
Exactly.
doing anything.
Well, it's just saying it's button.
Right.
We are using a CVG, I think, or it's an image of the hamburger, just your regular hamburger
Yeah, yeah.
image. But we have to say what it's doing.
Okay. So
Okay.
again, I'm gonna go to the DOM, and so in this button, what would we
So
say
again,
here?
I would suggest, since there's no text on the screen, that on the page that we can link it via our ARIA label by, I think the best option would be hidden text, screen reader only text.
Okay, and so we would do that inside the button then. So like right now we have the SVG wrapped in the button, so I could set. How would I do that then?
So you'd have a span with a
Yeah.
text.
Oh, duh, and put the
Yes.
SR only
Yeah.
class on that.
Yeah, and you put the SR only class on that.
Okay, that's
Okay.
an easy solution, right?
Okay. So notice how easy it is to, even if you don't use the screen reader, because that was our understanding, I'll kind of like see how the screen is behaving, and you, without being a screen reader user, kind of learn how you can debug. And a lot of the stuff that I caught with the screen reader, you
Mm-hmm.
can find it in accessibility tree if you know what you're looking for, especially
Yeah,
the lack of accessible name.
that's massive. And I thought Google would catch that, but since maybe this is a button, Google Lighthouse will typically catch links that don't have names,
We didn't,
but
we
this is a
didn't,
button.
we didn't, no, no, we didn't run a lighthouse on the page with the navigation. I don't
Oh,
think we
you're
did.
right. You're
I
right.
don't think we did. Because
Mr.
yes,
Accessibility is in the house. Just again, what's at the towards the end of it, Mr.
um,
Todd Libby. I said it was early for him. I'm
you
sorry,
know,
I over spoke over you.
no, no, no. I just want to say, Emma was here. I don't know if she's still here. I can see the chat. Todd is here.
Hmm.
And this is kind of emotional for me because they are my teachers. They don't know that because these are the people that I reach out to. That's how I learn. Emma, Todd, Homer,
Hmm.
Julian Deutsch in Austria, Grace. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for everything you've helped me with.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Todd and I have known each other for a while through Twitter, at least, and I forget what community we were a part of that we kind of connected for the first time. But since then, he's always definitely been like my go-to accessibility person because I just know if I got a question, I can ask him. you know. Yeah, it's great having, and that's the thing I also love about the accessibility community from someone that's not in it per se. Like I'm not an accessibility expert. I do think I'm in it, but y'all just care so much about it, and like that's great. I think that's just we need people to care about it.
Definitely, yeah. They're both very awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make use of this accessibility tree in my own development for sure. It's like you said, once you learn what you're looking for, you know, it's hard not to fix things, especially in these cases it's very simple fixes.
If I can show you one more thing, so the bottom panel, you have the network conditions there.
Yeah,
Uh, Click on the accessibility.
right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll hide
I don't.
this. Oh shoot,
Let's
here we
see.
go.
Again, you're on a Mac. Okay, so notice that. So I select. You can select again. Go back to the button, the hamburger button
Mm-hmm.
there. So it's giving you very specific. So you could go back to the element view, um, or actually, I don't want you to, but I'm saying that that's an
Okay.
option, to kind of look at the
Oh,
details, okay? Or you can look at the accessibility bottom panel, and it's going to give you specifics about that element. It's saying it doesn't have area label by, area label. It doesn't have contents, a role is button. So it goes into detail. Like if it had an accessible name, it will tell you where it's coming from. Was it set with
yeah.
area label? Is it just the text between the tags? Super, super useful information.
Yeah, no, this is great. And this is just giving the options for what it can be, right? So,
Exactly, exactly.
um,
Those
in
are,
this, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, no, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
In this case, ARIA label and ARIA and title. Title's not an ARIA thing, but it is a property of this of just a button, right? So would we use that to help out rather
So
than
that's
the
an
span?
attribute, that's an HTML attribute you can use. So it's
Yeah.
one of the options they give you. If you can use, for any reason, you can use anything else, the accessible name can be created from the title.
Mm,
Most experts suggest against using it because it's not reliable. I mean, if you can use anything, I mean, I don't know why you can't use a screen reader only text.
right, right.
Okay, you could just, I know it's a little bit of like extra work there. You have to know about that as an option. So no, I wouldn't recommend title, and it's also not shown
Yeah.
here. Yeah, as a last resort, yes. Even placeholder is an option, but again, if you're looking at the list, okay, use as a last resort, and because it's not reliable.
So are these computed properties that we don't have specified here? Are these just happen to be like in order of preferred to not preferred?
Exactly, exactly. Well,
Aha.
I would say
Yeah.
contents actually should go first because contents and label, it's the text you actually also see on the screen. So if you
That
have an
okay, yeah.
if you have an input, so I take that back. I don't. It's not necessarily in preferred order because text that's visible on the screen, it's preferred versus, let's say, if you use aria label, that's
Mm-hmm.
not so great because let's think about a, um, let's say you're using an icon for a link.
Right.
Oh yes, yes, Emma is making a good point. So um, aria label by overrides everything.
Okay, so starting from
Yes,
the
yes.
bottom, title is the weakest, followed by contents from label,
So
aria
it's
label,
it's
and then
gonna
aria label
override.
by.
So if you have text, if you, let's say you have an icon for your LinkedIn, yes.
Mm,
So you have no text. If you use aria label by, maybe there's a LinkedIn heading on that page. Okay, so that's going to be associated. Um,
okay, yeah.
if you if your link has the text linked in, but your aria label by is Ryan's LinkedIn profile, that's going to be the one that's going to be the accessible name. Now,
Okay.
or aria label. Actually, in this case, it would be aria, Ryan's LinkedIn profile. Now, there's a problem right there because if I'm a voice user, I want to click on your link, yes, and I want to say, I'm using a maybe Dragon or some voice
Mm-hmm.
software, yes, and I'm going to say, click LinkedIn. Now, the accessible name is Ryan's LinkedIn profile.
I
Okay, the
see.
assistive technology via the API is going to look at the accessibility tree and it's not going to see anything started with LinkedIn. So it's not going to recognize
Now I'm worried about
the
what I
link.
have on my website.
There's actually a WCAG rule 2.543 that the visible text has to match the accessible name because of
See,
that.
I
Yeah.
definitely thought I was being cute, or not cute, but I thought I was being good in saying view Ryan Furr's X profile, view Ryan Furr's Twitch channel, but that's not good.
No.
That okay.
So
Mm,
you're failing that specific because you're not helping voice users. You can add extra information maybe if you
yeah.
want, but make sure it matches the big, especially the beginning, the first few words, they match with whatever is visible on the text, or with whatever the user might guess that the name is. Because if you're using an icon for, let's say, for LinkedIn, the
Mm-hmm.
user probably is going to say click LinkedIn. The user is not going to say click Ryan's or view Ryan's LinkedIn profile. Okay,
Right, right.
make sense? I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm explaining that correctly.
yeah. No, I have a lot to now go through and update on my website. But that's okay. That's a project for a little bit down the road when I have a little more time. I'm going to be doing a big refactoring of it anyway. But
Christmas time.
yeah, hopefully, I'm taking trying to take some time off of work, so we'll see. Maybe I could get it done then. But hey, we only got through a few pages, but it was incredibly eye opening because again, tools that I now can know, and hopefully any other developers that may have jumped in or watched this afterwards can gain from it. I think that's massive. So thank you for your time and teaching me. You're always willing to teach us.
Sure. I'm just looking at what Emma says, that it doesn't have to match exactly. The visible name has to be in the accessible name. Yeah, that's true. So that's the name. That's what CAG is
Mm.
asking. From my experience when testing with the voice software, I was never able to activate unless the beginning of the visible text and the beginning of the accessible name would match exactly, like the first couple of words.
Right, right. And best practice is start with the visible text. Okay. Well, it's all food for thought for me to take action on, right? So it's not just thought, it's stuff that to start implementing. And like I said at the start of this, my goal as a developer is to write fully bulletproof code that no one has to think twice about accessibility, unless, when a new spec comes around that I don't know about, right? And then or I could just reach out to one of my accessibility expert friends and to be like, "Hey, what's new? What's new in your world? How often is it changing the accessibility specs and things that you have to know?"
Uh, Not too often, which I don't know if it's good or bad. So we just got the last, batch of success criterion, which are the rules last year, WCAG 2.2. WCAG 3.0 is in workings,
Okay.
maybe end of the decade. Because
Right, you said that before.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to build a lot of consensus about all the parties involved. So it's not easy. I mean, think about the changes that happen in JavaScript. That there's a process. Even though I think in JavaScript it's much easier now than with WCAG.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm apologizing to people about the ads. I couldn't snooze them any longer. it gives you the option for 3 times, and that's it. Yeah.
oh,
I mean,
the
there's
ads
things.
on Twitch.
Yeah, the ads on
Okay.
Twitch. But I appreciate you sticking through it. Yeah, I mean, something like that definitely I can anticipate taking so much time and energy and conversations around getting it right. It's so much, and I'm sure it also goes into it trickles down or up from other things too. Like it's not just the web; it's just software in general, right?
And it changing, and it's getting more. We're getting better at making sites more and more complicated, and that complicates the accessibility piece of it as well. um,
Mm-hmm.
like we were showing off our css styling skills or tailoring, whatever people are using. And if we're not keeping up with what needs to be done to make things accessible, it's just, I mean, some of the sites that people share just to, again, to show off their skills, like I usually just close the browser tab if it's too much. And my disabilities is just related to anxiety and autism, and it's just like
Mm.
if there's no structure to what I'm looking at, that overwhelms me. But there's so much animation and you can't turn it off, because that's something you have to do. And it's very easy to do if you know that, it's an issue for some people.
Yeah, I almost feel like it would be. It's almost wise to build it with no motion first, add that those preferred motion rules in general, but it's also like a super easy media query to add too, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, so omitting it makes no sense. I actually, for a while, I was using a personal CSS reset that I sort of like stylized to myself, and I had it thrown in there right from the get go because it's just something that you don't have to sweat once more, you know? Yeah, Jason says the more animation there is, the more I just want it to be text. I think animation is really nice. It's fun to build, but it needs to be tasteful, and it can't be so much that it detracts from people being able to read it. Like
And
that's part.
again,
It's
it goes back to the idea is that a lot of devs just don't know that accessibility is a thing.
oh my god, Jason. Sorry.
This is Richard. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. Jason wouldn't be so thoughtful. Valhead is the goat of accessible animation.
I don't know them.
I am pulling up their website right
Hmm?
now. Oh, I've seen them before. Here, I'll share the link for everyone. Now I'm the host of Tech Commute. Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look at Val's website and everything and see what it can learn. Oh, literally one of the recent articles is accessible web animation. The WCAG on animation here. I'll share that link as well. Todd spreading wisdom. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm already over time, but I appreciate your time, Karina. I have
No,
to go
thank
do other
you.
things too, and I know you.
Saturday. Yeah, I have to work this afternoon. So yeah,
Oh, that's
this was
right.
fun. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having
Thank
me
you for
over.
doing it. Where can
First
people
time on a
find you?
stream live.
Awesome. I know you have your talk coming up at Squiggle Conference. That
Mhm.
is September. You said it.
It's October 3rd. Yeah.
Okay, October 3rd in
Yeah, in
Boston.
September, there's a TypeScript meetup here in Boston. I was invited to talk about Playwright and how we can automate some accessibility testing. So the kind of testing you do with the automated browser tools, you can actually have Playwright do that. So you just in case you forget, it's there, and you can't
Mm,
push, to GitHub unless those tests pass. But I'll share that on social media as the date gets closer. And then yes, on October 3rd, Squiggle conference here in Boston, I will be talking about using the accessibility tree to debug
yeah,
accessibility and just in general.
that's super super
You
exciting.
notice that's so easy to use, and
It's so easy to use. It needs to be taught. Like it needs to be taught at a basic level. I feel like accessibility needs to be not an afterthought. And experts definitely make sense, but building it and baking it into most of your stuff. I mean, from the get go, I think definitely needs to happen. Thank you to Emma, Richard, Todd,
yes,
for
thank
hanging
you.
out. Thank you for your help. Yeah, Richard slash Jason. Karina, where else can the people find you?
I'm on Twitter and on LinkedIn. I don't stream. I don't know how to. I have also a small website called
Love
webforeveryone.us
it.
that I build just for entry level with entry level information. In even though I have a new batch of stuff coming up, kind of more advanced accessibility components and just approaches to accessibility. But I think if you're just starting with accessibility, that's a good entry point.
Yeah, it
And kind
definitely
of
can attest
yeah.
to that. It's great. It's a. I love the design. I told you that when you shared it in the LGT Discord. It's great. So
Oh, thank
everyone
you. That
go
was
check
just
that
an
out.
accident. Yeah.
Are you gonna record your talk at Squiggle?
I think the organizer are going to record it and it's going to be available on YouTube.
Okay, great. Because
Yeah.
I definitely want to be able to watch it if I can. I don't think I can make it to Squiggle, but I'm gonna try it anyway. But yeah. All right. Hang out real tight, Karina. We're gonna end the stream, but everyone, thank you again for hanging out. I know it
Bye,
was
everyone.
an